When my pregnant wife discovered I wasn't the wealthy man she thought she married, she gave me an ultimatum that would haunt us both forever. Sign over all parental rights or watch her destroy everything. But karma had other plans, and what happened next exposed a betrayal neither of us saw coming. Sign it, Marcus. Sign the damn paper and walk away. My wife's voice cut through the kitchen like a blade through silk. Cold. Precise. Final. Her hand, the same hand that used to trace patterns on my chest while we talked about baby names, now shoved a legal document across our kitchen table. The paper slid across the wood with a whisper that sounded like goodbye. She was 6 months pregnant. Standing in the apartment we'd painted together last spring, wearing the maternity dress I'd bought her 2 weeks ago, and she was asking me to give up our child. My hands were shaking. The tremor started in my fingers and spread up my arms, into my chest, until my whole body felt like it might come apart. Not from fear. From a rage so pure, so consuming, I didn't recognize myself. Rachel, what are you talking about? This is our baby. The words came out broken, desperate, like I was begging her to remember who we used to be. She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound wasn't joyful or nervous. It was contemptuous, dismissive. The laugh you give someone who's told a joke so bad it's offensive. My stomach turned over, and for a second I thought I might be sick right there on our kitchen floor. Our baby! She tilted her head, and the late afternoon light caught her face in a way that made her look like a stranger. No, Marcus. This is my mistake, and you're going to fix it by disappearing. The document sat between us like a live grenade. I couldn't stop staring at the header. Bold, black, unmistakable. Voluntary termination of parental rights. Each word was a punch to the gut. Voluntary, like I had a choice. Termination, like something living was being killed. Parental, like I was supposed to stop being a father with the stroke of a pen. I forced myself to look up, to meet her eyes. Eyes I'd stared into on our wedding day while promising forever. Eyes that used to soften when they landed on me. Now they were hard, calculating, empty. You're asking me to abandon my own child because... I had to stop, had to swallow past the lump in my throat. Because what? Because I'm not rich enough for you? Her perfectly shaped eyebrows drew together. Not in confusion, in annoyance, like I was being deliberately obtuse. You lied to me, Marcus. You let me believe. I never lied. My voice cracked on the word never, and I hated how weak it made me sound. How desperate. But I couldn't stop the words from pouring out. I told you I worked in tech. I told you I had a stable job. I never once pretended to be something I wasn't. You're the one who assumed. Assumed? She stepped closer, her pregnant belly nearly touching the edge of the table. I could see the curve of it beneath the dress. Could see where I thought our baby, was growing. You wore designer clothes, Marcus. You took me to expensive restaurants. You talked about investments and startups like you were building an empire. Her voice rose with each accusation, gaining momentum like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. You let me meet your colleagues at that fancy company party. You drove a nice car. You lived in this apartment. She gestured around us at the 2-bedroom rental I'd worked so hard to afford. You let me believe you were going somewhere. That you were somebody. The apartment suddenly felt smaller. The walls pressed in. The air grew thicker. And now I find out you're just a mid-level software engineer living paycheck to paycheck? Her lip curled. That you rent this place? That your portfolio is a 401k with barely $50,000? That every nice dinner was you scraping together savings like some struggling nobody? Each word landed like a physical blow. I felt my face burning. shame mixing with anger in a toxic cocktail that made my vision blur. So that's it. My voice came out barely above a whisper. That's all I am to you? A bank account with legs. Rachel's face twisted into something I'd never seen before. Something ugly. Entitled. Cruel. For a moment, I couldn't reconcile this person with the woman who'd cried happy tears when I proposed. Who'd whispered, "I love you," in the dark. Who'd told me she felt safe with me. That woman was gone. If she'd ever existed at all. You're a liability, Marcus. And I don't keep liabilities. She said it so matter-of-factly. Like she was talking about a bad investment. A car that cost too much to maintain. Sign the paper. Walk away. I'll tell everyone it was a mutual decision. You can start over. Find some girl who doesn't mind that you'll never give her the life she deserves. Someone with lower standards. My phone was in my pocket. My hand moved toward it instinctively, muscle memory taking over when my brain couldn't process what was happening. What are you doing? Her voice sharpened like a knife being drawn from a sheath. Calling my lawyer. The silence that followed was dense. Oppressive. Then she laughed again, and this time it was worse. This time there was genuine amusement in it. Your lawyer. She shook her head slowly, like I was a child who'd said something adorably naive. Marcus, you can't afford a lawyer. You can barely afford this apartment. That's the whole point. That's why we're having this conversation. She leaned forward, placing both palms flat on the table. Her engagement ring, the one I'd saved for 6 months to buy, caught the light. 2 carats. White gold. She'd said it was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever given her. Now I wondered if she'd been calculating its resale value even then. You have no power here, she continued, her voice dropping to something intimate and vicious. No resources. No options. You can't fight me. You can't protect yourself. And you certainly can't protect this baby from the life I'm choosing for us. So sign the fucking paper and let us both move on. The air left my lungs. All of it. Like I'd been punched in the solar plexus by someone who knew exactly where to hit. And that's when I realized something that made my blood run cold. Everything, our entire marriage, every kiss, every whispered promise, every moment I thought we were building something real, was a lie. She'd never loved me. She'd loved who she thought I was. Or more accurately, who she'd imagined I was. Some wealthy tech entrepreneur with unlimited resources and unlimited potential. When reality didn't match her fantasy, I became disposable. The baby became disposable. Our life together became nothing more than a mistake to be corrected. Get out. The words came from somewhere deep inside me. Somewhere cold and final. Rachel blinked, clearly not expecting that response. What? Get out. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor with a sound like nails on a chalkboard. Get out of my apartment. Now. Your apartment? She laughed, but there was uncertainty in it now. Marcus, we're married. This is. Get out before I call the police and tell them you're threatening me. That you're trying to coerce me into signing away my parental rights through intimidation and false accusations. Let's see how your lawyer spins that story. For the first time since this nightmare conversation started, I saw something flicker across her face. Not fear, exactly, but calculation. A reassessment of the situation. She picked up her purse, smoothed her dress. When she looked at me again, her face was composed, serene, like we'd just had a minor disagreement about what to have for dinner. You have 24 hours, Marcus. 24 hours to think about what you really want. Because tomorrow morning, if I don't have your signature, I file divorce papers. And I file for emergency custody based on domestic violence allegations. The world tilted sideways. I never touched you. I never would. Doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. Her smile was poison. Matters what I say you did. What my lawyer says I told him. What the bruises I'll have tomorrow morning say happened. You think anyone's going to believe you? A stressed, angry man who suddenly lost his wife and baby? Or a frightened pregnant woman who finally found the courage to escape? My vision tunneled, black creeping in from the edges. You'd lie about that? You'd ruin my life, destroy my reputation, risk my career, all because I'm not wealthy enough. She was already walking toward the door. Slowly, deliberately, like she had all the time in the world. I'd do whatever it takes to give my child the father they deserve. And that's not you, Marcus. That's never going to be you. She opened the door, paused, looked back over her shoulder with something almost like pity. 24 hours. Choose wisely. Then she was gone. The door clicked shut with a sound like a casket closing. I stood there in the kitchen, in the apartment I'd worked so hard to afford, surrounded by the life we'd built together, and felt everything inside me crumble to dust. You're probably wondering how it came to this. How a love story, something that started with laughter and late-night conversations and hope for the future, turned into a nightmare. How the woman I loved enough to marry became someone capable of threatening to destroy my entire life just to get what she wanted. Let me take you back to where it really started. Before the threats. Before the betrayal. Back when I still believed in happy endings. 18 months earlier. Austin, Texas. A tech conference that I almost didn't attend. The conference center was packed with the usual crowd. Developers, entrepreneurs, marketing people, investors. The air smelled like coffee and ambition. Everyone was networking, exchanging business cards, talking about disruption and innovation and the next big thing. I was there for work. My company had sent me to present on a platform we were developing. Nothing groundbreaking. Just solid, reliable work that made our clients' lives easier. I'd given my talk, answered questions, and was thinking about heading back to my hotel when I saw her. Rachel. She was standing by a coffee station, laughing at something someone had said, and I swear the whole room seemed to tilt in her direction. She had this energy about her. This presence. Not just beautiful, though she was that, objectively, undeniably beautiful, but magnetic, like she was lit from within. Our eyes met across the room, and she smiled. I walked over without thinking, without planning what to say. Just walked over like I was being pulled by a force I couldn't name. "Hi," I said, feeling like an idiot. "I'm Marcus." "Rachel." She extended her hand, and when I took it, something electric passed between us. "That was your talk earlier, wasn't it? On system optimization?" I actually found it fascinating. We talked for 2 hours. The conference disappeared around us. People came and went, but we stayed rooted to that spot by the coffee station, words flowing like we'd known each other for years instead of minutes. She was a marketing consultant, she told me, specialized in tech startups, helped companies refine their brand voice and market positioning. She traveled a lot for work, loved it but was getting tired of hotel rooms and airport food. I told her about my job, about the satisfaction of building something that worked, something people relied on, about my team and the projects we were tackling. Looking back, I can see how she heard what she wanted to hear, how she took my words and built a fantasy around them. When I said, my team, she heard, my company. When I talked about building a platform, she imagined me as the founder, not the lead developer on someone else's project. When I mentioned our growth trajectory, she pictured stock options and equity, not annual performance bonuses. But I didn't know that then. I just knew that talking to her felt like coming home. "Do you want to get dinner?" I asked when the conference was winding down. She smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." Dinner turned into drinks. Drinks turned into walking through downtown Austin, talking about everything and nothing. Our childhoods, our dreams, the books we loved, the places we wanted to visit. At 2 in the morning, standing outside her hotel, she kissed me. It was the kind of kiss that rewrites your definition of what a kiss can be. "I don't want this to end," she whispered against my lips. "Then let's not let it," I said. And we didn't. She lived in Dallas, 200 miles away. For the next 3 months, we saw each other every weekend. Sometimes I'd drive to her. Sometimes she'd come to me. We'd explore new restaurants, go to movies, stay up until dawn talking about the future. Our future. She'd ask about my work, and I'd tell her everything. About the challenges we were facing, the solutions we were developing, the satisfaction of seeing something you built actually work in the real world. "You're going to be running that company someday," she'd say, running her fingers through my hair. "I can tell. You have that drive, that vision." I'd laugh it off. "I'm happy where I am. Good team, good work, good salary." "How good?" she'd ask playfully. "Good enough," I'd say. $85,000 a year plus benefits. In Austin, that's comfortable. I'm saving for a house, building up my 401k, living within my means. She'd nod thoughtfully, but I never noticed the calculation behind her eyes. Never saw the gears turning as she processed that number. 85,000 sounded different to her than it did to me. To me, it meant stability, security, a good middle-class life. To her, it meant limitation, ceiling, not enough. But she hid it well. So well that when I proposed 6 months after we met, I believed with my whole heart that she loved me for me. Not for what I could provide. Not for the lifestyle she imagined. Just me. We got married in a small ceremony. Her family flew in from California. My parents came up from Houston. About 30 people total. Simple. Intimate. Perfect. I remember my mom pulling me aside before the ceremony. "Marcus, sweetheart, are you sure? You've only known her 6 months." "I'm sure, Mom. I've never been more sure of anything." She smiled, but there was worry in her eyes. "Just be careful, okay? Sometimes people aren't who they seem to be." I hugged her, told her everything was fine. That Rachel was the best thing that ever happened to me. I wish I'd listened. The cracks started small, almost imperceptible. 2 months after the wedding, we were having breakfast on a Sunday morning. Pancakes, coffee, sunlight streaming through the windows of our apartment. Everything should have been perfect. "Marcus," she said, setting down her coffee cup, "when are we going to start looking at houses?" "Soon," I said. "I'm saving for a down payment. Should have enough in another year or so." She was quiet for a moment. Too quiet. "A year. Maybe 18 months. I want to have at least 20% down so we can get a good rate." "Can't you just take it from your investments? Liquidate some stocks or something?" The first cold finger of dread traced down my spine. "What investments, Ratch?" She looked genuinely confused. "Your portfolio. Your stock options." She stopped, studying my face like she was trying to read something written in a language she didn't understand. "You do have investments, right? Beyond your salary." I explained my 401k. My modest savings account sitting at $32,000. The careful budget I maintained to live comfortably without debt. How I was putting away 15% of my salary for retirement and another 10% for the house fund. Her face went very still, very blank. "I see," she said quietly. We didn't talk about money for 3 weeks after that. But something fundamental had shifted between us. The air in the apartment felt different, colder, like a door had been left open somewhere, letting in a draft I couldn't locate. She started working later, coming home at 8, 9, sometimes 10 at night. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give vague answers. Busy, stressful, the usual. She spent more time on her phone, texting people I didn't know about projects she wouldn't discuss. When I'd suggest we cook dinner together, something we used to love, dancing around the kitchen to music, laughing when I'd inevitably overcook the pasta, she'd say she'd already eaten, or she wasn't hungry, or she had work to finish. The intimacy between us died slowly, quietly, like a plant nobody remembered to water. Then, 4 months into our marriage, I found the pregnancy test. I wasn't snooping. I was taking out the bathroom trash and saw it at the bottom of the bag. The wrapper. 2 pink lines on the stick below it. My heart stopped, then started again, beating so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I was going to be a father. I found Rachel in the bedroom, working on her laptop. Ratch. My voice shook with excitement, with joy, with fear. Is there something you want to tell me? She looked up slowly. When she saw what I was holding, all the color drained from her face. I was going to tell you, she said, but there was no joy in her voice. No excitement. I needed time to think. Think about what? I laughed, setting the test down and crossing to her. Rachel, this is amazing. We're going to have a baby. We're going to be parents. But she didn't smile, didn't cry happy tears, didn't throw her arms around me and share in the moment I'd been dreaming about since I was a kid. She just nodded slowly, mechanically, like she was calculating something complex and coming up with an answer she didn't like. Yeah, she said finally. Amazing. The word sounded hollow, empty, wrong. Are you okay? I knelt beside her chair, taking her hands in mine. Talk to me. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. But she wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm just surprised. We weren't trying. I know, but still. This is good news, right? This is what we talked about. Building a family. Growing old together. All of it. She pulled her hands away gently. I need some air. I'm going for a walk. She left, and I sat there in our bedroom, surrounded by all the pieces of our life together, wondering why the happiest moment of my life felt like a funeral. Over the next month, she became a ghost. Physically present but emotionally absent. She'd sit across from me at dinner and I'd feel like I was dining with a stranger. She'd lie beside me in bed and the distance between us felt like miles instead of inches. I tried everything. I cooked her favorite meals, ran her baths, massaged her feet, read articles about pregnancy and first trimester symptoms so I could be understanding about the morning sickness and fatigue. I bought pregnancy books, set up a separate savings account for the baby, transferring $500 into it from each paycheck, started researching cribs and strollers and car seats, making spreadsheets to compare prices and features. I wanted to be ready, wanted to be the father my child deserved. Rachel watched me do all of this with an expression I couldn't read. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at me with something that looked almost like contempt. Other times, it looked like guilt. But she never said anything, never told me what she was thinking. Just watched and waited while I built a future she'd already decided we weren't going to have. Then came the night that changed everything. 3 weeks before she shoved that document across our kitchen table. We were having dinner. Grilled chicken and vegetables. I'd made her favorites, hoping to break through the wall between us. Hoping to find the woman I'd married underneath the stranger she'd become. Marcus, she said suddenly, setting down her fork with deliberate precision. Exactly how much do you make? The question caught me off guard. You know how much I make. We've talked about this. Humor me. Tell me again. Something in her tone made me wary, but I answered honestly. $85,000 a year base salary, plus about $7,000 in annual bonus if I hit my targets. Full benefits, matching 401k contributions up to 6%. She was very still, her eyes fixed on some point beyond my shoulder. And your family? What about inheritance? Trust funds? Properties? My stomach dropped. My parents are retired teachers, Ratch. They're comfortable, but there's no trust fund. No family money. Why are you asking this? She stood up. Just stood up and walked away from the table, leaving her plate half full. Rachel? What's going on? She locked herself in the bedroom. Didn't come out for the rest of the night. The next morning, I woke up alone. Rachel was already in the living room, laptop open, intensely focused on something. I came up behind her, still half asleep, and saw the Google search before she could close the window. Family law attorney near me. My blood turned to ice. Rachel. She slammed the laptop shut, spun around. Her face was flushed, caught. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I wanted to know my options. Our options. For the baby. Options? What options? We're married. We're having a baby. What options do we need a lawyer for? She wouldn't answer. Just stared at me with those eyes that used to make me feel safe and now made me feel like I was standing on crumbling ground. I should have demanded answers. Should have pushed harder. Should have seen what was coming. But I was scared. Terrified, actually. Terrified of the answer. Terrified of losing her and the baby and the future I'd been building in my head. So I didn't push. I let it go. And the silence between us grew heavier, denser, suffocating. She stopped eating meals with me, stopped sleeping in our bed, started staying at friends' places overnight. When I'd ask who, she'd give names I didn't recognize. When I'd ask for numbers, just to make sure she was safe, she'd accuse me of being controlling. You're smothering me, Marcus. I need space. Space? You're carrying our baby. I just want to make sure you're okay. I'm fine. I just need you to back off. So I backed off. Gave her the space she demanded, even though every instinct screamed that something was wrong. That I was losing her. That our life together was disintegrating and I was too paralyzed to stop it. Then came that Thursday afternoon. I came home from work early. Had finished a project ahead of schedule and decided to surprise Rachel. Maybe make her dinner. Maybe try one more time to break through to wherever she'd gone. The apartment was empty. No note. No text explaining where she was. I tried calling. No answer. I was making coffee, trying to decide what to do, when I noticed her iPad on the couch. She must have forgotten it in her rush to leave that morning. It was unlocked, open to her email. I almost didn't look, almost respected her privacy and closed it. But something made me glance at the screen. Just a glance. The subject line of the top email stopped my heart. Draft agreement. Termination of parental rights. My hands were shaking as I opened it. As I read the attachment from Attorney Michael Brennan, Family Law. Every word was a nail in the coffin of our marriage. Voluntary termination. Agrees to relinquish all parental rights. No custody, no visitation, no decision-making authority. In exchange for release from child support obligations. She'd planned this. Had gone to a lawyer. Had drafted legal documents to erase me from my child's life. And I'd had no idea. I sat there on our couch, in our apartment, holding her iPad with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, and felt my entire world collapse. When Rachel came home 3 hours later, I was still sitting there, still holding the iPad. She saw what was on the screen and froze. Marcus, how long? My voice sounded dead, flat. How long have you been planning this? It's not. I can explain. Explain what? Explain why you want me to give up my baby. Explain why you've been researching how to legally cut me out of our child's life. She set down her purse very carefully, very deliberately, like she was buying time to formulate a response. You don't understand. Then help me understand, Rachel. Please. Because right now, the only thing I understand is that my wife has been planning to make me sign away my parental rights without ever giving me a choice. Without ever having a conversation about it. She was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold, factual, like she was delivering a business presentation. You're not who I thought you were, Marcus. And I can't raise a child with someone who's going to hold us back. Hold you back? From what? From the life I deserve. The life my child deserves. This apartment, your salary, your lack of ambition. It's also mediocre. And I refuse to be mediocre. The word hung in the air like poison gas. Mediocre. That's what I was to her. That's what our life together amounted to. Mediocre. So you're going to force me to give up my child because I'm not rich enough? I stood up, and the iPad fell to the floor with a crack. Because I don't meet your financial standards. I'm giving you an out, Marcus. A clean break. You can walk away. Start over. Find someone who thinks your comfortable little life is enough. And what if I don't want an out? What if I want to be a father? Her smile was thin, sharp. Then we'll do this the hard way. And trust me, Marcus, you don't want that. You can't afford that. That's when I understood. This wasn't a conversation. It was an ambush. She'd already made her decision. Already formulated her plan. Already decided that I was disposable. Now she was just informing me of the verdict. Get out, I said. What? Get out of this apartment. Get out of my life. We're done. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't that simple. Knew she wasn't going to just walk away. She was going to burn everything down. And the next day, when she shoved that document across our kitchen table and threatened to destroy me if I didn't sign, I knew I'd been right. I drove to my brother's place in a daze. Jake lived across town in a small house he'd bought right out of college. He was a paralegal, had worked in family law for years, had seen every ugly divorce and custody battle the legal system could produce. If anyone could help me make sense of this nightmare, it was Jake. He opened the door in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. What happened? I told him everything. The document. The threats. Rachel's cold calculation. The 24-hour deadline. Jake was quiet for a long time after I finished. He sat on his couch, hands clasped in front of him, jaw tight. Marcus, he finally said, his voice careful, this is coercive control. What she's doing is illegal in the sense that she's using threats and intimidation to force you into signing a legal document. But here's the problem. Proving it is incredibly difficult. What do you mean? She hasn't put the threats in writing, has she? No texts? No emails? I shook my head, feeling stupid. She's been too smart for that. Exactly. It's all verbal. Her word against yours. And in family court, especially when there's a pregnant woman involved, the bias tends to favor the mother. Not always, but often enough to be a real problem. So what do I do? Jake leaned forward. First, you don't sign anything. Not without a lawyer reviewing it. Second, you document everything. Every conversation from this point forward, you record if it's legal in Texas, which it is, since we're a one-party consent state. Every text message you screenshot. Every email you save. And third, you prepare yourself for war. Because that's what this is going to be. She's already told you she'll make false allegations. She'll drag you through the most expensive, brutal custody battle she can engineer. Even if you win, and that's a big if, the process will nearly destroy you. I felt sick. There has to be another way. There is, Jake said quietly. You could sign, walk away, cut your losses and try to rebuild your life. That's not an option. I know. I'm just saying it exists. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, let me make some calls. I know a good family law attorney who does free consultations. Let's get you in touch with her, see what your real options are. I stayed at Jake's that night. Didn't sleep. Just stared at his ceiling, mind racing, trying to figure out how my life had imploded so completely in the span of hours. At 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed. Rachel. Tick-tock, Marcus. 19 hours left. Make the right choice. I didn't respond. Just set the phone face down and tried to breathe through the panic squeezing my chest. The next morning, Jake's attorney friend called. Her name was Sarah Chen. She listened to my story without interrupting, occasionally making notes. When I finished, she sighed heavily. Mr. Chen, Marcus, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. What your wife is doing is unconscionable. It's financial abuse. It's coercive control. It's potentially extortion. But proving any of that in court is going to be an uphill battle. Why? Because the system is designed to protect mothers and children, which is generally good. But that protection can be weaponized by someone who knows how to manipulate it. If your wife files false allegations of domestic violence, you'll be on the defensive immediately. You'll need to prove a negative, prove you didn't do something, which is almost impossible. So she wins? Just like that? Not necessarily. But you need to be strategic. Don't engage emotionally. Don't give her ammunition. Document everything. And whatever you do, don't sign that document. What if I can't afford to fight her? Then you find a way. Because signing away your parental rights to a child, especially under duress, is something you'll regret for the rest of your life. We talked for another 20 minutes. She gave me her card, said to call if I needed representation, but warned me that family law battles could easily cost $20, $30, even $50,000. Money I didn't have. I thanked her and hung up feeling more hopeless than ever. It was 2 p.m. 3 hours until Rachel's deadline. I sat in Jake's living room, staring at my phone, trying to decide what to do. That's when the text came through. Unknown number. You should know who your wife really is. Check your email. Someone who cares. My heart stopped, then started racing. I opened my email with shaking hands. There was a message from an anonymous account. No subject line. Just an attachment. I hesitated for only a second before downloading it. The first file was a photo. Rachel. At a nice restaurant, the kind we could never afford. Sitting across from a man I didn't recognize. His hand covering hers on the table. Both of them smiling like they were the only two people in the world. The timestamp on the photo. 2 weeks ago. Right around the time she'd started sleeping at friends' places. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, trying to focus. There were more photos. Dozens of them. Different restaurants. Different dates. A hotel lobby. Rachel laughing as the man's hand rested on the small of her back. Her getting into his car outside a coffee shop. The timestamps went back months. 4 months. 5. Back before she got pregnant. My hands were numb. My whole body was numb. Then I saw the video file. I almost didn't click it. Some part of me knew that once I watched it, there would be no going back. No unknowing what I was about to learn. But I had to know. Had to see the truth, no matter how much it destroyed me. I clicked play. The video was dark, shaky, recorded on a phone from across a room. But the audio was crystal clear. Rachel's voice laughing. He still doesn't know? Man's voice deep and amused. About the baby? Babe, relax. As long as he thinks it's his, we're fine. My world stopped spinning. Rachel, I don't know if I can keep this up much longer, David. He's so clingy, so hopeful. He bought a fucking crib yesterday and spent an hour telling me about safety ratings. David, that's actually sad. Does he really think you're going to stay with him? Rachel, God no. But I need him to think that until the divorce goes through. Once he signs those papers and gives up his rights, I can finally get him out of my life. David, and then what? Rachel, and then we do this right. You, me, and the baby. The family we should have been from the start. The audio continued, but I couldn't hear it anymore. There was a roaring in my ears, like I was underwater, drowning. The baby wasn't mine. Retry. Continue. The baby wasn't mine. The baby I'd been preparing for, reading books about, saving money for, dreaming about holding for the first time. Not mine. The video kept playing, but I couldn't focus on the words anymore. Just fragments. Pieces of a conversation that was dismantling my entire reality. David, how much longer do you need? Rachel, I'm meeting with the lawyer tomorrow to finalize the termination documents. Once I scare him enough with the domestic violence angle, he'll sign. Men like Marcus always do. They're too afraid of being labeled abusers, too afraid of losing everything. He'll sign just to make it go away. David, and you're sure he believes the baby is his? Rachel, laughing, that same cruel laugh from yesterday. Oh, he's completely convinced. It's almost pathetic how excited he is. He actually cried when I told him I was pregnant. Cried. Like it was this beautiful miracle instead of the mistake it actually is. David, our mistake. Rachel, our beautiful mistake that's going to give us everything we want. Once Marcus is out of the picture, once you finalize your divorce from Jennifer, we can finally be together. Really together. You can acknowledge the baby is yours, and we can start our life the way it should have been from the beginning. David, your life, you mean? The wealthy husband, the nice house, the lifestyle you think you deserve. There was a pause. Then Rachel's voice, colder. Don't start with me, David. You're getting what you want too. A younger wife. A fresh start. And let's not pretend your money wasn't part of the attraction. David laughed. At least you're honest about being a gold digger. Rachel, I prefer strategic. And speaking of strategy, I need you to transfer another $10,000 into my account. Legal fees are adding up. David, another 10? Rachel, I've already given you. Rachel, do you want me to stay with Marcus? Because I can. I can have this baby, let him think it's his, and drag you through a paternity suit that makes your divorce look pleasant. Or you can support me through this transition like you promised. Silence. Then David, I'll transfer it tomorrow. Rachel, good boy. The video ended. I sat there, staring at the blank screen, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out everything vital. Everything human. She'd been cheating for months. Maybe longer. Had gotten pregnant with another man's baby and decided to pass it off as mine. Had planned this elaborate scheme to make me disappear, to coerce me into signing away rights to a child that was never mine to begin with, all so she could play house with her real boyfriend. And I'd had no idea. I'd been living in a fantasy while she orchestrated my destruction. The rage that filled me then was different from before. Before, it had been hot. Consuming. The kind of anger that makes you shake and yell and lose control. This was cold. Crystalline. Pure. I forwarded the email to myself. downloaded every file to my phone, backed everything up to 3 different cloud services, sent copies to Jake. Then I sat very still, thinking. Rachel had given me 24 hours to sign, had threatened to destroy my reputation, my career, my entire life if I didn't comply. She'd planned this so carefully, had covered her tracks, had threatened me verbally so there would be no evidence, had positioned herself as the victim and me as the villain. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated how much someone else wanted to see her exposed. Whoever sent me this video, and I had my suspicions it was David's wife Jennifer, had just handed me the nuclear option. I looked at the time. 2:47 p.m. Just over 2 hours until Rachel's deadline. I called her lawyer's office. Brennan and Associates, how may I help you? This is Marcus Chin. I need to speak with Attorney Brennan about the termination documents. One moment, please. I was put on hold. Smooth jazz played while I waited, which felt obscenely inappropriate given the circumstances. Mr. Chen. Attorney Brennan's voice was smooth, professional, the voice of someone who'd never had to fight for anything in his life. I trust you're calling with your decision? I am. I'll sign the documents. A pause. That's excellent. A wise choice, Mr. Chen. I believe this is the best outcome for everyone involved. I have one condition. Karma had teeth. Rachel's family was horrified when they found out what she'd done. Her mother called me 3 weeks after the confrontation in Attorney Brennan's office. Marcus, She was crying. I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. So deeply, deeply sorry. I don't know what happened to my daughter. I don't recognize the person she's become. Mrs. Sullivan, none of this is your fault. I feel like it is. Like I failed somehow. Failed to raise her with values, with decency, with basic human empathy. She took a shaky breath. She won't talk to me, won't return my calls. But I wanted you to know that what she did was unforgivable, and that if there's anything I can do. There's nothing to do, I said gently. But I appreciate the call. Do you? She hesitated. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive her? I thought about that. Really thought about it. I've already forgiven her, Mrs. Sullivan. Not for her sake. For mine. Holding on to that anger, that betrayal, it would destroy me. So I've let it go. I've forgiven her. But, she heard the unspoken word. But I'll never forget. And I'll never give her the chance to hurt me again. The baby, a girl, was born in late December. Rachel had her alone, David having decided he wanted nothing to do with the situation once it became public. Too messy, too complicated, too damaging to his already destroyed reputation. A court-ordered paternity test confirmed what we all knew. David was the father. His name went on the birth certificate. He was ordered to pay child support, which he fought bitterly before finally accepting. Rachel tried to reach out to me one more time, about 6 weeks after the baby was born. She sent a letter to my new apartment. I'd moved across town, needed a fresh start, written by hand on expensive stationery. I almost threw it away without reading it. Should have, probably. But something made me open it. Marcus, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. I've spent the last 6 months trying to understand how I became the kind of person who could do what I did to you. My therapist says I have deep-seated issues with self-worth. That I've been chasing external validation, money, status, the perfect life, because I don't believe I'm valuable on my own. That I destroyed our marriage because some broken part of me couldn't accept that someone could love me just for being me. That's not an excuse. It's not even really an explanation. It's just context. I destroyed the one person who actually loved me, who saw me as I was and chose me anyway, who would have been an incredible father if I'd given him the chance, who was building something real while I was chasing fantasies. My daughter, Sophia, she's beautiful. She has David's eyes and my nose and a cry that sounds like a smoke alarm. I look at her sometimes and wonder what kind of person she'll grow up to be. Wonder if she'll inherit my worst qualities or if there's still time to break the cycle. I hope you find someone who deserves you, Marcus. Someone who sees what I was too blind and broken to see. Someone who appreciates your kindness, your integrity, your quiet strength. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I hope someday you can remember the good parts of us without the pain of how it ended. Rachel. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully, put it in a drawer, and closed it. Maybe someday I'd write back. Tell her I appreciated the apology. Tell her I hope she found healing and became the mother Sophia deserved. But not today. Today, I was still building myself back up. Still learning to trust again. Still figuring out who Marcus Chen was outside of the ruins of his marriage. 6 months after the divorce, I was doing okay. Not great. Not healed. But okay. I'd gotten a promotion at work. Turned out that focusing all my energy on professional development was an excellent distraction from personal devastation. My salary had jumped to $105,000. I'd moved into a nice one-bedroom apartment with a view of the city. Started going to therapy to work through the trust issues and betrayal trauma. Started dating again, slowly and carefully. Coffee dates that didn't lead anywhere but reminded me that connection was still possible. That not every woman would look at my bank account and calculate my worth in dollars and cents. I joined a gym. Picked up old hobbies I'd abandoned. Reconnected with friends I'd neglected while I was married. Rebuilt myself piece by piece. My brother Jake was proud of me. Told me regularly. "You survived something that breaks most people," he said over beers one Friday night. "You could have let it destroy you. Could have become bitter and angry and closed off. But you didn't. You chose to heal. To grow. To become better instead of broken." "Some days I still feel broken," I admitted. "Broken and healing aren't mutually exclusive," he said. "You can be both at the same time." He was right. 1 year after the confrontation in Attorney Brennan's office, I got an unexpected message. From Jennifer Richardson. "Marcus, I thought you'd want to know. Rachel lost custody of Sophia last month. CPS got involved after neighbors reported the baby crying for hours. They found her passed out drunk, the baby unfed and unchanged. David has primary custody now, which is its own kind of nightmare, but at least Sophia is safe. Rachel's in rehab. 3rd time this year. I don't know if she'll make it out this time. I know you've moved on. I know you probably don't want to hear this. But I thought you should know that karma finally caught up with her completely. Take care of yourself. Jennifer." I stared at the message for a long time, feeling nothing, then something, then nothing again. I should have felt satisfaction, vindication, justice.